Welcome to Monday through Sunday. I'm Logan.
I'm Sanam.
And I'm Lane. We're best friends, the founders of Blossom Brands, and the hosts of this podcast.
We can't wait to take you behind the scenes of running a 7-figure agency with our best friends.
We're sharing our mistakes, our lessons learned, and giving you tactical advice to build the career, the business, and the relationships you dream of, and a life you don't need a weekend to escape from.
So let's get balanced and let's get down to business. Welcome to the show.
Alrighty. Hi, guys. It's Sanam, and welcome to the Monday through Sunday podcast. I am so excited about this episode in particular because it's an exercise that is near and dear to my heart. I did it with my women's group back in March, and I have been nonstop gushing to Lane and Logan since I did it. Finally, we did it as a group, and I'm just super excited to walk you guys through it and talk about kind of what we found when we did ours and kind of collectively shared it together. But before we dive into the good stuff, I want to do a quick pulse check. How are we doing? How is everyone this week?
Doing good. I feel like we haven't talked this whole entire week, and it's so strange. Like Lane's been on vacation, Sanam's had a lot of appointments, and I feel like I haven't talked to you guys in ages.
I know, literally, Logan, anytime you and I talk,
y'all.
It's like just been like, hey, can you handle this Slack? Can you handle this? And like we haven't really like actually caught up while Lane's been out either.
I know, guys. I feel like I haven't seen you or talked to you in so long, which I feel like I don't normally go more than like 12 hours without talking to you guys. So I'm excited to catch up.
But I'm proud of you for disconnecting.
I know. I really have been intentional in this vacation to completely disconnect from a work perspective, from a personal perspective, and just like be present on vacation. It's also, I feel like the first time I've gone on vacation where I have had like zero plans. Like I literally was like, I want to show up. I don't want to have any dinner reservations, any places I need to be at any time, and just like go to the beach, swim in the ocean, lay by the pool, read. And it's just been so fabulous.
Like the beach and the pool stuff sounds very Lane-like, but like the lack of planning does not sound Lane-like. So I'm kind of here for this shift.
I love it.
It's been like, I had to plan to not plan. Like I had to really be like, every time my brain started to try to plan, I was like, okay, wait. No, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to show up and do what I want to do when I want to do it. But this morning's been a little tough on me.
Oh,
I must have accidentally drinking the Mexico water. I don't know. I've been so
Did you
careful,
brush your teeth with it?
No,
that's
I
what
literally
always
used
gets me is
bottled
brushing
water.
That's what happened to me last time too.
Every time I've been in the shower, I've been like sure to keep my mouth shut. I'm like, I don't know how this happened. I've been so careful, but here we are.
Not gonna lie, last time I was in Mexico, like when I was in Cancun a couple weeks ago, I was just like, it's fine. And I showered with it, washed my face, and everything was fine. But I feel like it's like so hit or miss. Like one property you stay at could be totally fine, and then the other could like ruin
I wish
life.
I could say the same. I had a really traumatic experience. And by traumatic, I mean like, you know, when you're just walking out and about, that stomach issue hits. It is not the right time.
It's happening. It's happening.
It is so unfortunate. And I'm just going to spare the details. But yeah, been there. I'm sorry, Lane. I'm proud of you for getting
like a bridesmaids moment.
Yep, exactly.
I know. And then I didn't sleep last night because I was on my phone Googling about getting sick from Mexico when you're pregnant. And then I was like having panic attacks, and it's fine. It's all fine. I'm going to be fine. I need to call my doctor after this.
Oh my God. Good luck. Keep us posted.
I think it's fine.
Wait,
though.
actually, or like, is this just you being like a little anxious? Like you're fine.
Well, I need to call my doctor to like
just to inform,
to calm my anxiety. I think it's fine, but I just like need to make sure that there's nothing I need to do that I'm not already doing.
Okay.
But
probably just chug a lot of bottled water to like flush it out.
From what I've read, it's like the main concern is like overly dehydration. So I just need to like keep hydrating, drink a bunch of fluids, have some electrolytes, and hopefully I will be fine.
Well, best of luck.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you. How are you guys?
Wait, no, I'm still on you. How has your vacay been otherwise? I've loved your daily text novel updates.
I know. I feel like I like don't talk to you guys all day. And then I'm like, okay, if I don't talk to you guys for like 5 days, I'm going to forget everything I have to tell you. So I just send you one really long text update about my day and how it was. But it's been so good. I know I was kind of already saying this, but to just like have zero plans and wake up and see where the day takes me has been so nice. And I have been really intentional about trying to meditate every single morning because I've really gotten out of that routine. And I feel like it's just been like the perfect place to get back on track with it. And I like feel the most connected with myself when I'm in saltwater in the ocean. Like literally, I just feel like it's my 100% happy place. And to be able to do that like 5 times every day has just been incredible. Last night we watched the sunset in the ocean and I was like, I feel like this is one of the best moments of my life. It was just like so beautiful. I know it really was a core memory. And Sanam, 2 nights ago, I sent you a video, I think, but it rained right before sunset and the sunset was on one side. It was so beautiful. And then there was a huge rainbow on the other side. Logan, I'll send you a picture of it too, but it was like literally magical. I was like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And so I just feel like everything has been so peaceful and beautiful. And I've just like really been in a vibe here.
That's the piece that you
That's
needed
amazing.
after the most chaotic week leading up to that piece.
I know.
Oh yeah, can we talk about that?
Seriously. Okay, so I have been trying to get my passport since October of last year. How many months is that? I don't know, like 8 to 10 months, something like that.
Because you changed your name, so you needed it with your new name, right?
I changed my name, and then also my passport was going to expire in the next year. So I was like, okay, let's just try to do all this at once. And then I sent it in. It was taking a long time. I sent in the wrong marriage license. So we went to Europe last year in November, and we went to Amsterdam, and I really needed it, and they like weren't going to be able to get it in time. And the people were really helpful. It was way easier for me to get through to people at that point. But when I was doing that, they sent me a temporary, like a 2-year one that they were like, okay, we need the correct marriage license once you get back for your trip, but we can send you this one temporarily. So I got that back. And then, I went on the trip. After the trip, I sent in all of the stuff that they told me to send after the fact. And they like had no history of anything that had happened previously with like them sending me the temporary, all of my old stuff I had sent. So I had to like restart the process. And I don't know why, but they kept losing every time I'd resend the stuff in over this past year. So I've like taken a passport picture, I think 105 times this year and had to resend it in. So it's been a journey. I ended up getting my passport in the mail literally 48 hours before we left for our trip. I was like about to cancel.
Wait, but Lane, I feel like you're skipping all the drama. Like it was like 3 days out from the trip and you're like calling the place and you're like, it's fine. We just have to cancel until 48 hours before. And then your husband gets in the email confirmation. It's like, Lane, no, it's actually 2 weeks. Like we're too late.
So basically like we realized we couldn't cancel the trip because it was 14 days before that you had to cancel the hotel reservation, not so yeah, it was 2 weeks, not 2 days. And so we were already late for that.
Classic mistake.
But I emailed them and I sent them all of this history of my passport stuff. And they were like, okay, fine. Like we can have a, exemption. You guys can cancel it last minute. So I was like, they were like, okay, do you want to cancel? And I was like, not yet. Give me like 24 more hours to like see if I can get my passport. And so I was like going back and forth with them on that. I was like at the same time trying to find a backup place that we could go in the States if I wasn't going to get my passport. I was also on hold with the passport people for literally like 3.5 hours every day trying to get through to someone, but it was a holiday week with the 4th. And so no one was answering. It was just such a chaotic mess. And I feel like that with also trying to plan like our trip to LA and our shoot and everything next week, my brain was just spinning like a psychopath for a whole week straight. So this has just really been what my brain needed.
That's a lot going on.
You are the only person I know that would work out for. Like
I know.
Getting your passport 24 hours in the mail before your flight. Like just the fact that all worked out for you is just so on brand. And
it's very on brand.
I know everybody I talked to was like, I mean, I'm not even worried. You're just going to get it. Things work out for you. I'm like, well, I appreciate that, but I didn't believe it until it actually happened. So I guess things do work out for me.
That's some good energy. People
Lucky
are
girl
channeling your
energy.
way.
I know.
All right, guys. I personally would love to start segueing into our personal and professional best segment. This is a time where we can kind of highlight what are some of the good things happening in our lives, whether it's personal, professional, it doesn't matter. And I wanted to see, do either of you have one to start with?
I sure do. I think I have a professional best this week, and it was because you two were completely MIA work-wise. No, I'm totally kidding.
No,
but
we were.
Lane's on vacation. Sadam's had her doctor's appointment, and I'm just like running this business left to right. And honestly, sometimes it's like a little bit overwhelming when there's only one of us like online out of the 3 of us to like keep everything running, keep clients happy, check in with our team members and things like that. But honestly, on Tuesday, I woke up And of course was the day we had like a big client meeting at like 10 a.m. I woke up. My internet's out. It's an area wide outage, like literally no internet. And I woke up and I like slept in. I normally don't sleep in, but I slept in a little bit. So I only had 30 minutes to get ready for this meeting, which I was presenting in. And I didn't tell you guys this, but I was like, I slacked one of our team members, Laura. I was like, FYI, I have no internet. I'm about to like pack my stuff up and like run to a coffee shop and like hope that they don't have AT&T, because it was like an AT&T area outage. So I'm like sprinting to the coffee shop next door. I open my laptop, make sure there's internet. And then I'm like, okay, but coffee is essential. So I order a coffee when the meeting's getting started. And then like immediately like open my presentation. I'm like, okay, guys, let's talk about last month's KPIs.
Wow. I had no idea.
So that happened on Tuesday. Yeah, that happened. I was waiting for this moment to tell you. But everything went great. And then after that, I was just like, well, there's probably still not Wi-Fi at home. So I'm just going to keep working. And I probably worked until like, I don't know, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the coffee shop. And I feel like I got like all my to-dos done for the whole week in like that one little sprint. So it actually turned out to be a good thing, because I feel like the rest of the week I've been able to like prioritize, like I've done a good job of mixing. Like sometimes I have a hard time. Like I either take a full day to just do personal stuff and not think about work, or I do a full day of just like work grinding. And since I kind of had that like grind day on Tuesday, I've been able to like mix it up throughout the week. So like yesterday I got my hair done and took a couple meetings. The day before I got my brows done, took a couple meetings. So we've been doing all the things. We're feeling great. We're feeling glam, and clients are happy, which is what matters.
I love that so much. And I had no idea all of that went down.
Yeah.
Me neither. Just holding down the fort, girl boss energy. I love that so much. And thank you so much for allowing us to handle our personal lives and our vacations and just keep everything moving.
Like you said, it's why we do what we do.
All right. Well, I'd love to transition us to talking about the actual Good Life exercise. I'm so excited to talk about it. I just like feel really strongly about this exercise. I recommend pausing this episode and writing out your good life just as you interpret the prompt right now. Because when you interpret the prompt without any, what is the word that I'm looking for? Like any
preconceived notions.
Any preconceived notion, any influence, it's going to change the way you go about things. I remember when I wrote mine, but then listened to other people's in my women's group, I definitely was like changing mine as I was listening to it. But it's so exciting to hear what your actual raw thoughts are in that moment. And then doing another good life, let's say in a month or two or in another year, whenever you are finding yourself wanting to kind of revisit what your actual good life looks like. It's really fun to see how it transitions over time.
Yeah, it was so cool when we all did it, that we all did it in different ways. Like I did a complete day in the life with a lot of details. Sanam goes from like at this point in her life to a couple years later. And like, we all just did it in different ways. And I think it's really cool. Obviously, after the fact, you can go back and like shift it and add more based off of like things you learned from other people's. But for a first go at it, I think it was really cool to have us each do it in different ways just based off the prompt.
Agreed. Okay. So the good life prompt. So what does your best life look like to you? Imagine it as you write it out in as much detail as possible. What do your days look like? What's your home like? Who are your days spent with? What work is life? How much do you make? Who works with you? How do you feel at work? How you're known by the community and the world around you? How you feel in your body? What your main relationships look like? Everything. Write it out in great detail. I remember when I first heard this prompt, I was cringing so hard. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to write this out. Like, and then read it to the group. Like, it's so vulnerable. It's just like such a, I don't know. It's like, you're really just like so naked when you're putting this out there. But then this was also a time in my life where it was right after the New Year. So it was like in March. So still pretty fresh into the year, where I had no idea what resolutions I had for myself. And I am like a goal girly. Like any arbitrary time to like start a new goal, I will absolutely start a new goal. But at that time in my life, I could not think for the life of me what I wanted, which was such a weird position to be in. And then I took the time to write out my good life. And I could not stop writing. I did it the night before it was due, and I was just pen to paper, nonstop, just flowing in the flow, just going and going and going. And then after, I had this sense of clarity, and it just felt so good because all these things I didn't know what I wanted for myself, like all of those questions were just immediately answered. But I also know that's not the same experience for everyone. It also could be an intimidating exercise. Like once you're actually writing it out, it could be scary. There's a lot of emotions tied to it just because it's about future planning, future vision. But I'm curious to know, Lynn and Logan, how did you guys feel when you're actually in the exercise? How did you guys feel when I told you what the prompt was? Like, what were the overall vibes?
I think I had a really similar feeling to you, Sam. I was like, okay, this sounds like a pretty big task. And like, I really do want to be thoughtful with it. So for me, I also procrastinated, which is not a surprise if you know me, but I did procrastinate and wait and like a few days to do it. And it was kind of like getting started that was hard for me, because I was like, I actually think this will be really helpful. Like I saw the value in the exercise right away. So I was like, I want to make sure I'm doing it when I'm like in a good headspace. And so it took me a while to get started, but same thing. Like once I started writing, I literally couldn't stop. And like, I was thinking of all these things I wanted to add in, all these different like realms of my life that like needed to be firing on all cylinders for this like good life to come true. So I just like loved doing it. And also after we talked about it, I was like, okay, I want to go add a bunch more to mine. So it was like something that I knew I would love. And then it like still exceeded my expectations. And for me, I think the most special part of it was when we all sat down and read ours to each other. Like it was a really, I think, vulnerable moment for all three of us. And like, I think we're really like such good friends. Like we know each other's like professional goals, personal goals. But I do think that there's like that deep down part of you that like probably very few people know, if anybody. And I feel like we got to know each other on a deeper level through that. And it was just really special. And I just loved it.
Love that.
I totally agree with that. And that I was going to say, I feel like I have two main parts to that question. The first being, I think for me, being someone that like always wants to plan out how I'm going to do something. What was hard for me was like, okay, how do I want to approach this? What route do I want to take? How do I want to like pull all this together? And kind of how we talked about at the beginning, being like, there's not a right and wrong way to do it. For me, it was hard to get started because I was like, okay, like what is going to be my strategy for like how I answer all of these questions? But once I got going with it,
I've ever heard.
Literally. But once I got going with it, I literally wrote like 6 journal pages. Like I wrote so much in so much detail and had so much fun with it. I also love like manifesting the life that I want and talking about it and writing out my goals and stuff. So this like exercise, the actual process of answering the questions, like what the questions were, was not intimidating to me. I feel like I like do this in my meditation all the time. Like I'm always kind of trying to like envision the life that I want. So it was more just about like how to pull it all together. But I think that first off, just like putting out there what you want and putting it onto paper is such a good exercise. But then the one thing that I feel like most people don't do is like share that with people in your life. I think that especially in friendships, like that's not how you spend time with people. You don't ask people about their most inner thoughts, like your family and your friends. Like there's not very much time that you take to really like ask someone like, what do you really think about? What do you really want? And like, what are your deepest, most vulnerable thoughts and goals? And I think it's so cool to do that with people. And what I thought was so special about it was not only that we did it with each other, but that we had so much overlap. And it just shows that we actually do know each other so well. But I also loved what we learned about each other. Like there were things that each of you shared that I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. And like just getting to understand each other and like how we think about things and what we really, really want and desire, I think is so special. And it really helps us to help each other like work towards those goals and like know what we all want and like what's important to us and what our values are. So I think that it is something that like you don't think to do with your friends. Like, for example, you did this in a women's group that's focused on wellness and bettering yourself, but like not many people do this with just their friends that they hang out with. So I think it's something that is really unique and a cool experience to have with the people close in your life.
And I just want to emphasize that a little bit more, because I think what Lane said about like, that's not what most people spend their time doing with their friends is like so true. And I would honestly say that like, if you feel like you don't have the depth of friendships that you desire in your life, like maybe you have social friends, maybe you have friends who you like to spend your time with, but not necessarily friends that are like on your same wavelength, like pushing you to be the best version of yourself. You really feel like it's a like reciprocal relationship. You gain things from each other. I think if you don't feel like you have friends like that, I would challenge you to like do these types of things with your existing friends. And you can either from that, I think, discover, number one, is there an opportunity to build these relationships to have the kind of depth that you're kind of seeking? Because I've definitely gone through phases in my life that I'm like, I really appreciate the friends I have. I just don't feel like they're really my people. And so I think that gives you the opportunity to assess, like, could these people be my people? We just haven't like invested enough in our relationship. Or number two, maybe those aren't your people and you do it and it's weird and awkward and like, you know, it's more like, oh, these are fun going out friends, but maybe not friends who I really want in my corner through like the hard parts of life or just the parts of life that you're really like striving to achieve. So I think it's a good test. Like either these are friendships you want to invest more in, or these aren't friendships you don't need to invest any more time in, and maybe seek friendships elsewhere. Like Sanam's women's group is a great example. Like people who are in that same like wavelength and like looking to better themselves, maybe those are the types of friendships that would better serve you. And I feel like this exercise is a good way to like assess that.
Yeah, I feel like also Logan, you and I from this exercise, particularly when we did it, we read it and we're like, well, we can start doing these things now, which is like such a beautiful realization to have. Like for me, I was talking about how I want to like go back to New England with a group of girlfriends and like in my perfect life, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wait, literally what? And I remember right after I wrote it, texted my friends and I said, okay, for my 30th birthday, I would like us to go to Cape Cod. And then within 2 weeks, we had a date planned and now we're all booked to go. And it's like things like that are so easy to actually capitalize on, that you think is just like this dream life of yours, but it's actually so attainable if you just put your mind to it. Set aside the time to like dedicate and do what you need to do, whether it's like in my case, it was trip planning, or in your case, it's your morning routine. But it's like such a good reminder to like take a step back, assess where you're at in life, and see how you can optimize like your day to day, like how it is.
Yeah, that I feel like Sanam, we both had experiences like that. I wrote about something like super specific that I was wanting to find kind of in Dallas. And when I talked about it in my good life, both Sanam and Logan were like, you should. So basically I've talked about my therapist like starting a women's group. So Sanam has this like incredible women's group in LA, and I've just been like so envious of it and like wanting something like that in Dallas. And I, in my good life, like talked about my therapist starting something like that, a community, a women's group in Dallas. And they were like, you should tell her that. Like, you should tell her that you wrote about that. And I was like, I don't even know her that well yet. We've only been working together for like a month at this point. I feel like that's so vulnerable. And I ended up like, her and I have connected on such a deep level really quickly. And I ended up telling her at the end of one of my sessions, and she was like, I am so happy you spoke up and said this to me, because it has been something that's been on my heart for so long. And I've literally already drawn up the flyer. Like I've already put so much thought into this, but I've never really taken the step to execute on it. And she was like, and I think I really needed that push. And she literally just sent out an email last week about getting it set up in the next couple of months. And like, it's all because we did this exercise and we talked about it, and they encouraged me to take action on it. And I'm not saying that like, it's all because of that, like it wouldn't have happened elsewhere, but I feel like I manifested that for myself and for her. And I think it's so cool when like you can see things actually happen in your life because of taking the time to do these types of things.
You brought it to life, literally.
Yeah. I know. I keep telling her, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to take credit for your work. It's your thing, and it's not my thing. But I just feel like I have a hand in it.
I think there just like aren't as many roadblocks to what you want to achieve as you think they are. Like there are a lot of things that you see for yourself in the long term that you can actually start actively working towards right now. And it takes kind of taking a step back, putting it all down to see that.
100%. A few other things that I like had takeaways for when I did mine that other people called out and then I realized myself was I can actually see myself staying in California. I lived in Dallas for 5 years right after college, which is how I met Lane and Logan. And it was the best like 5+ years and I loved it, but I was really missing my family in California. And so I moved back, and my first year, I wasn't sure if I was going to stay, and then actually staying here and moving to an area that I absolutely love, living in a beautiful apartment, and just kind of like starting to actually like develop my roots here. When I was writing in my good life, I was like, okay, I actually think I could stay here, which is like a really fun and exciting feeling. It's just like this feeling of like assurance where you're like, okay, I know what I want, versus that feeling of unknown. So that was really exciting. And then obviously I talked about Nantucket. Mine was very relationship heavy, talking about like how all of my relationships look in my life, like depending on like where I am at in my life. So that was fun to kind of work through. And then the last thing was work goals. Going into the new year, I remember telling Lane, I don't know what I want for the business. Like, I don't know what the long-term goal is. I remember having this conversation distinctly in your backyard, and you're like, you don't need to know. It's okay. And because we'd been doing this for 5 years, which is still relatively premature, but like doing it for 5 years and you're kind of like in the weeds daily, you're like, wait, what does the next step look like? Like, I don't know what like 5 years from now, what we want. And writing it down and kind of taking a step back just gave me so much clarity in the business, gave me so much more confidence. And I really just like love doing this exercise. And I'm so glad that you guys felt the same. Lane, Logan, is there anything else that like you guys felt like you like took from this exercise?
Yeah, I think that so I had two big kind of takeaways. One is that I feel like I realized after finishing it that if I would have done this exercise like 3 to 5 years ago, I think I would have written like literally exactly what my life looks like right now. And I think that was just like a really beautiful realization. Like, because I noticed I was like, okay, I feel like my good life right now, how I'm writing it is like 3 to 5 years out from like where I am right now when I wrote it. And I was like, I genuinely feel like so much of what I would have written about a couple of years ago is really like where I'm at right now, which was really cool to just like think about. But then I think something else that my good life right now was really centered around is what I would call like my core value right now. Something I listened to someone say once that you really know what your values are based off of how you spend your time and your money. And that really resonated with me because it caused me to really look at my life and think about like, what do I spend my time doing and where am I investing my money in? And does that align with like what I think my values are? And I think for me right now, like my biggest value is creating like a happy and healthy home. I think I'm investing a lot of time and energy into my home, like my actual house and renovations and getting it really like exactly how I want it to be, but also just like making it a happy place for my family and building it to be how I want it to like look and feel. And so I think a lot of what I recognized in doing my good life revolved around like building that value for myself. So not only was it some things like, you know, renovating our kitchen one day, maybe building a second floor addition that we want to do if our family expands big enough where we outgrow it, some things like that. And then one other thing I realized in that is that a happy, healthy home for me is not just like my actual roots in Dallas and the home I'm building there, but also making my home where the rest of my family lives. So I have family in Charleston, I have family in Chicago, and it just like made me realize I want to spend extended time building my home and my family in those areas too. And then Austin, and thinking about ways that I can do that and build my home around like where other people in my family are. And so it was just kind of cool to write out like exactly what my good life looks like, and then think about how all of those pieces really tie back to like my main goal right now, which is exactly what I had said, building a happy, healthy home. So I think that was just like another takeaway for me that felt really special.
Lane, hearing you talk about like what you spend your money on is reflective of your values really makes me question how loyal I am to the real. That's okay.
Honestly, not a bad takeaway.
It's like, is this my value? Like, oh, it's sustainability. That's value. But anyway.
I know.
Yeah, that's one way to spin it.
Lane, I loved yours so much. And I like hearing about like your like routine exactly about like when you wake up and like how you start your day with like your future kids. And like, it was just so beautiful. And I love like this like beautiful, well thought out routine that was like also so like tied to, like you said, your core values, like everything I know about you, like you love meditation, you love movement, you love like spending like close time with your family, you love traveling, you kind of like what's the word? Wove? You wove?
Weave?
Wove?
I don't know.
Woven? You've woven?
You wove?
You wove it in.
You intertwined it into your
There you go.
You intertwined it into your like day to day, and I feel like I could like see each part of it come out in a different form, and I thought that was really beautiful.
Thank you.
I think another thing, Lane, about yours that I really liked was you did go into great detail about like your life, your immediate family dynamic, but you also had such like out of the box ideas, and I think out of all of us, you went into most depth about the other people in your life. So you had just as extensive detail about like where I would be in my life and where Sanam would be in her life as you had about your own within yours. And I think that just shows your value because your people are so important to you. And it was just really cool to see. I was like, oh, my good life was a little bit selfish. It was mostly about me. And I just really like loved to hear Lane's vision for like each of us individually and together, because I think like that is that's the trajectory we're on, is our lives are going to continue to be intertwined. So I just loved hearing your perspective on like other people's good lives and things like that.
Thank you. That's so sweet. And one thing I just wanted to say about that is it was so cool that after doing that, to hear the things that I wrote about you guys, and then to hear that yours actually were like the exact same. Like for one thing, I wrote about for Sanam was having an investment property in Dallas so she could spend her like Mays and June in Dallas, because selfishly for me, like that's something I really want. I want her to be in Dallas more often and spend like extended periods of time there. And I know that it's something that like I thought she would maybe want for her. So she literally wrote the same thing, and we've never even talked about that before.
Yeah.
And so I thought that that was just like a really cool, special thing to see happen.
I did love that. I did.
Okay, Logan, how about you? Tell us about your good life and like what your main takeaways were and what you think was most important to you from it.
Yeah. So I think I started mine pretty similar as Lane did, kind of describing like a really detailed day in the life. For me, I think my ultimate like personal goal, like kind of in the short term, is just to feel like I have my life really together. Like I'm kind of a well-oiled machine and like doing the same things day to day that like ladder up to these bigger goals. So for me, consistency is something I really struggle with. Like I think a lot about how I want to optimize my time, but I don't always stick to the like mini promises and goals I make to myself. So like waking up at a certain time, having this certain morning routine. So I kind of detailed that out, which is like really mundane, but those are the things that like make me feel my best. And for whatever reason, I just don't always do it. And so in this time in my life, I'm like doing those things without question. Like I'm waking up, I'm having lemon water, doing my full skincare. I'm waking up super early so I have time to journal and do a devotional and kind of prepare for my day before the day gets ahead of me. I heard something one time, and it was like, when you take time for yourself first thing in the morning, you're playing offense on the day instead of playing defense, and like letting the day run you, you're running the day. And I think that's something that I kind of flip back and forth on right now. Like sometimes I run the day, sometimes the day runs me, and I feel so much better when I run my days. And so that's something that I really want to kind of get locked and loaded. And as a great example of what Sanam and I were talking earlier, of something I was like, okay, this isn't my good life, but I could actually start doing this right now. And so it kind of remotivated me to prioritize those things. So for me, my good life was like at some point, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 years in the future, depending on when my boyfriend proposes, but
hint.
yeah, hint, Andrew. But anyway, at this point we're like married, we have like 2.5 children, and we kind of help the kids like get going to school. If he travels a lot, he plays golf. So, he travels a lot. So if he's in town, he's taking the kids to school. I'm headed off to Pilates, get back from my Pilates class, get some work done. And for me, a few hours of uninterrupted work time just sounds like a dream. I think right now where we're at in our business, we are like at such a high growth stage, and we use Slack to communicate. So Slacks are coming like from all corners 24/7. And I'm really, one thing I really struggle with, and I don't think it's a personal struggle, I think it's more people overestimate their ability to multitask, and you lose so much time. It's called context switching when you switch from one thing to another. So I may be working on like a website audit for one client, and if I get a Slack about like another client's performance, even the energy it takes to just like read that Slack and try to refocus, that's called context switching. And
that's not good.
Yes, it's not good. You're not supposed to do that. And I think people think that they can do that and still be productive, but you really can't.
Sanam, you're actually good at it though.
But like, it's not good.
Sanam is good.
It's not good though.
Yeah.
Like, I constantly lose focus when I'm like deep in a task. I'm like not good at
I don't know.
D&D
I feel like it's really not good for Logan and I, but like you, I just feel like can go through the flow with context switching. And you just still somehow make it work for you.
No, but then I just feel like so much more drained after, because I exerted so much more like brain energy than I needed to. Okay, sorry, Logan, continue.
Like kind of spread through. No, all I was going to say is if you're like kind of interested to, I don't know if I explained that very well, but if you're interested to learn more about that topic, the book that Sanam and our friend Tiffany recommended to me about this is called Essentialism. I don't know who the author is. We'll put it in the show notes.
It's like Greg McCowan.
That book, our friend Tiffany gifted it to me when we all worked at like our
Okay, but
company.
I told her to read it.
Yes, you told Tiffany. Tiffany like sent it to me like when I was really just like struggling, like drowning at work, and I was drowning too much to read the book at the time. So I secretly like pretended that I read it and was like, "Oh yeah, Tiffany loved the book, thanks." But I really hadn't read it yet because I was so just underwater. And so eventually I finally read it literally like 4 years later, and I texted her and I was like, "Okay, I finally read the book and I know exactly why you wanted me to read it. I wish I would have read it when you gave it to me, but thank you." So anyway, book called Essentialism, definitely recommend. And so it's all about like context switching. So for me and our current like business structure, and I think we've actually made strides on that recently, but it's hard to find uninterrupted work time. And that's when my brain like really thrives, is just like sitting down, completing a task from start to finish. I like really have to finish things to feel accomplished. So I don't like to like do half of this project today and save the other half for tomorrow. Like I'm such a like one track mind that I don't feel like I got anything done unless I fully got it done. And so having some like uninterrupted work time, first thing in the morning, breaking for lunch, living in like a beautiful home in Fort Worth, and just being really like everything's organized and just like feeling really at peace in my space, I think is something that is a big part of my good life. So from there, like that was really like my day to day, but I kind of took it a different direction, and I was like, okay, in order for this day to come true, there are a lot of different like realms of my life that need to like be true. And so like, for example, like where we live, how my career is going, my boyfriend's career is going,
Husband.
what we're doing with our husband, right? What we're doing with our finances, what our family is like, both like our individual like parents and siblings, and also our family unit that we're like building at this time. What's true about my faith, like how am I prioritizing that and showing up for that on a day-to-day basis, and how are our friendships, meaning me, Lane, and Sanam. So I kind of described my perfect day, but then was like, okay, for this day to come true in the way that I'm imagining in my head, this needs to be true about our finances. This needs to be true about my family. This needs to be true about our company, and kind of took it that way. And it helped me kind of compartmentalize my life and see like in which categories can I start like making moves on now to ladder up to those big goals that seem bigger than maybe they really are.
I love that. And I feel like it was just like such a good, fresh perspective for you to be like, okay, now I'm going to start my morning routine the exact way that I want to, even like the way I wrote it out in my good life. And the next day in your calendar, I see the most detailed breakout of like what your morning looks like. And it is so detailed, so down to the minute. I love it.
I also just feel like it was so you to have like at the end of it, for this to be true, this must also be true. And like have all of these specific things. Like, I feel like that was just such a good example of us each doing it in a different way, without any like preconceived notions from each other. And I think that those takeaways were just so interesting to see how like everybody else did it, and how you were like, okay, well, like I can't do any of this if I don't already have X, Y, and Z done. And I felt like it was very fitting for you to like have all of that detail. And I feel like it just kind of shows like your brain being like, okay, like I need to execute on all of these things in order to accomplish like the larger goal.
Loved it. I'd also like to issue a correction for a portion of my good life. So
tell us.
I detail this correction is really going to break Lane's heart. I detailed my dream wedding that would be in Italy, across Positano, the Amalfi Coast, and Capri. I no longer want it in Italy.
Wait, what?
I know, sorry. I would like it in Southern California, somewhere that's like 1 or 2 hours away from where I live. I just feel like it's so much easier. And so I just wanted to kind of plant the seed now for you guys, because I know you guys were really attached to the Italy idea.
I
was
don't
really looking forward to that.
I think that this is a phase for you, and you're going
to the phase has been happening for like a year.
I know, but the dream of Positano wedding has been happening for like 20 years. So I am just going to go with the fact that this is a phase that we're going to move through. And once you meet the right person, you will be back to the ultimate dream of the Positano wedding that I'm already looking forward to.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Well,
I don't accept
Sanam,
it.
you're like my one friend I'm counting on to have like a European adventure wedding. So you got to pull through. Not that I'm like telling you what to do with your life, but I can.
No, you are, but it's okay. We'll just like assess where we're at once the time comes, but just got to plant the seed. All right, guys, this was such a fun topic. Thank you so much for doing the Good Life exercise with me. It is truly such a fun thing to do. And I feel like I really got a deeper like understanding and knowing of you guys. And even though I know you guys really well, it was just like a whole other layer deeper that I didn't know existed. So thank you for doing it.
And thank you for introducing it to us. I feel like after doing it all together, the three of us, and just the takeaways that I got from it about myself and about you guys, it's really encouraging me to want to do it with more people in my life, like my husband and my other friends and my family. And so I think what you learn from it, I think you can apply it to other relationships and things like that. So I want to keep doing more of these things. Keep bringing us your exercises from your women's groups.
And soon enough, you're going to start bringing us exercises from yours.
Yes, indeed.
Love it. I would love to close out with just a content tip of the day. So my content tip is, or recommendation that is this new book I started a few days ago called Ikigai, Ikigai. And it's called Ikigai, the Japanese secret to a long and happy life. And I saw this recommendation from Sif Hader on Instagram. She's the founder of Array. And it basically highlights the lives of like the Japanese in this like very small like island that has a very long life expectancy. And it's a blue zone. And so there are a lot of blue zones in the world. Surprisingly, so there's a blue zone in California, which I had no idea about.
What's a blue zone?
So a blue zone is like where like people have the longest life expectancy. Hold on. Let me
Did you know that before you read this book?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Blue zones are regions in the world where people are claimed to live or have recently lived longer than average. And so I had been hearing about blue zones a lot, but I like never really decided to look into it. But like Sardinia in Italy is a blue zone. Costa Rica, there's a certain region there that's a blue zone. There's a place in California. There's a place in Japan. And so it's kind of detailing like what the lives of these people entail that live in these regions. And there was this one region in Greece that they were talking about where like, maybe it was like 1 in every like 5 people are over 90 in that region, where like in the US, it's like 1 in every, I'm just throwing this out there, let's say like 40 that are over 90. And so it's really fascinating learning about people in different areas that have a really long life expectancy that are like, what they do in their day to day. And like one example was like no crazy movement, just light movement every single day and like always opting to walk. One of them in Japan specifically is like they have their meals in like 4 small plates and 1 slightly bigger plate. So basically to like practice portion control, like you just put things in smaller plates so you eat less, but like you eat until you're like naturally 80% full, versus in the US, you're just like stuffing your face till like you're like 200% full. But anyways, it's a really fascinating book and I didn't know if I'd be into it, but I started listening to an audio and I was like, wow, this is great. And FYI on audio, it's only 3 hours. So it's really short, but I highly recommend it.
That's super, super interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like longevity is a topic that I hadn't really heard people talk about until the last like year or so. And I feel like all the content that I'm consuming, like Instagram, TikTok, like things that are popping up on my feed are like not, you know, there's the aesthetic focus of wellness. There's like the health and like output, like how much can I lift right now? How long can I run right now? Like element of wellness. But this longevity topic, I feel like is something that's like becoming more talked about. And it's really interesting. I can't say that I'm evolved enough to care that much. I'm kind of like, I don't really want to get that old because I never want to be like decrepit and like can't walk. So I feel like I've got to take it.
They're like 90-year-olds. Yeah. And they can walk long distance and they like still get up super early to work on the farm. Like it's just like so fascinating learning about it. So I'll report back once I actually finish, but that's like something that I'm reading right now that like I can't stop listening to.
I feel like the books, or I mean, the podcasts that I've listened to that are about that, they always say like 30 to 40 minutes a day of what you said, like low intensity workout. So for some people that might be a fast walk. For other people, it's a, like light jog, but it's where you can still talk, but you're a little bit winded. And then the other is saunas. Was that in the book you were recommending, Sanam, spending time in saunas?
I'm still very new to it. But I'm
well,
sure
one of the locations was Costa Rica. So I feel like that's like naturally like hot and humid.
It's just an outdoor sauna,
that
basically.
I think that supports your theory.
Yeah, I love when they were talking about Italy, how like they still drink like 1 to 2 glasses of wine a day. I was like, wow, this is just fascinating.
So take your hot girl walks.
Take your hot girl walks. I will come with a full list of takeaways once I finish the book, but I am so obsessed with it and I just wanted to share.
And go to your infrared saunas.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you guys again for such a wonderful conversation. And if you are listening to this on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, please rate, review, subscribe. And we will catch you next week. Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Monday through Sunday. If you're building a career, a business, or any relationships, we know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us.
With that in mind, we would be so grateful if you can spare 2 minutes to rate and review this podcast. Your reviews help spread the message to more people that work doesn't have to suck.
By the way, if you're looking for your community, join us on Instagram and TikTok at Monday through Sunday Pod. We're all about connecting our like-minded listeners together. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about by sending us a DM. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you again, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.